Welcome to another episode of If Your Will podcast. Well, we are into season 4, and I get so many wonderful artists that come across my inbox. Some not so wonderful, but this one in particular, I have Emma Danner from Red Ribbon, who's been around for quite some time now, joining us, and we're going to kind of dive into the foundation on which she's built these records upon. And we'll talk a little bit about her new record that's coming out, self-titled, on November 1st, which is really exciting. I got the privilege of listening to it. It's amazing. So keep that in mind, and we'll share all of where you can find it and all of that at the end of the episode. And please stay tuned, because we're going to feature one of her singles, actually the first single off the record, YSFP, which means you're so fucking pretty. Did I get that right, Emma?
Yeah, you even got the swear right too.
Nice. I'm banging it right now. So Emma, thanks so much for hopping on here and joining us for a little chat today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And you're coming in from LA, is that correct?
That's right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So LA and the music business. Wow, it's quite something, I bet.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting place. I've lived here for about 4 years now, and in my experience as a transplant, it's very lonely and isolating, but yet there's like infinite possibilities. It's an interesting juxtaposition between the two. Yeah.
Awesome. And what brought you to LA? Was it the pursuit of your music that was the catalyst?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, there's kind of, I think probably globally, there was a mass migration of people probably around the pandemic. I personally, I was working in a restaurant in Seattle, and I had lost my job, and had a little bit of like government emergency support. And I had been in Seattle for 7 or 8 years, and it just seemed like, I don't know, it was just a punctuation in time. And I was one of the folks that moved with that. So from what I understand from Angelinos, there were quite a lot of people who came to the city at that time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pandemic really shifted a lot of things, eh? And like all industries, particularly in the music industry, it seemed to have caused a lot of turmoil, but also a lot of discovery and new ways of doing music and interacting with the music industry.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that heavy topic stuff, let's build the foundation on which we'll have this chat. Where did music start to become important to you? Like, what are your early recollections of when music started to be something that was present in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. Well, I always have loved it. I mean, I think like all babies love music. But I didn't really start pursuing it. I mean, I guess the first time I played like publicly would have been probably around like 2012, 2011. So I was in my late teens when I kind of realized that not only could it be something that I really loved, but that it was possible to pursue in kind of a regular way, and not in this like, big break type of like movie type of way. You know what I mean?
Right,
So like,
right.
it could be a humble profession, and that there are so many working musicians out there who make it work. So yeah, that was really eye-opening to me, because I had some mentors who were, one in particular, Loretta Taylor was her name. She was in her 70s, and toured with, like, she played the violin and was touring with symphonies and stuff. And we met in San Francisco, and I started learning from her just kind of independently. And yeah, she really opened my eyes that it could be something regular, like being a bank clerk or something. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
That's
That the possibility was there that being a musician could be something.
right. Yeah, because I don't
Cool.
come from like a family that has any professions in the arts. So, you know,
Okay.
when you come from that, it's like, it kind of seems a little outlandish,
Sure.
you're raised with that kind of like more, I don't know what to call it. I guess like working class. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. That's
That
what
works.
about LA that I like is no one's like, if someone's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a musician. They're like, yeah, you and everybody else. But I love that. I love
And like, when did you first start playing? Like, what did you like? You picked up a guitar, I'm assuming, and started playing as a teen as well. And like,
that.
were you penning songs as
Yeah.
you were learning to play guitar as well? Like, it was the whole package you were going for.
Yeah. We did have a piano in my house when I was young. So I
Mhm.
poked around on that. And then, picked up guitar as teenagers tend to do. And played that, wrote some very simple songs. And
Mhm.
then when I left my home, like as like at 17 or 18, I that's when I started studying classical violin, and I started busking around San Francisco, which was, a very. I definitely recommend that to anyone who wants to get started with any instrument because it's fun and it's kind of like a non-pressure way to like play publicly. It's not like you don't have to go
Right.
through all the rigmarole of setting up a show and whatnot. So yeah,
Right. And what was your busking setup? Like, what would you have to have? Like, just your guitar? Would you like bring a amp and all that, or would you keep it pretty basic?
I would just play. I was playing violin, so I would just bring my violin, pop open a case, open it up. Sometimes people leave me like a 6-pack or something. But yeah.
Nice
Um,
people in San Francisco. That's a
yeah,
nice gift.
yeah, thank you. I was like, wow, I can get just an illusion to the many drink tickets.
And were you playing classical with the violin, or were you playing like popular songs that people might recognize?
Mm, it was classical, and I was really focusing on like Eastern European style of playing as well as more like bluegrassy. So those were my like interests as far as
Right.
um just like worlds of music. But yeah, once I kind of got like a basic understanding of that and like reading music and stuff, which to me like that instrument felt so much more intimidating than the guitar. I was like, oh,
Mm.
okay, I kind of went back to the guitar and um started working on that, and now that's what I consider my primary instrument. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And what was the first song you wrote? Like, do you remember that first song that kind of
Uh,
like you started and you're like, okay, I got to finish this, and like tell me about that first song.
oh my God, I can't believe this is what's coming to mind, but this is what's in my head, so I'm going to say it. But
Yeah.
I remember being little, like pacing around my house, outside of my house, like really little, like probably like 6 or 7, pacing around and singing a song about like how Santa was real.
Mm, good theme.
We
Good theme.
figuring it out. I had older siblings. And so I was just kind of like, I don't even remember what it was, but something ridiculous probably about, putting that pain,
Right.
trying to delude myself into thinking, yeah.
That's it.
um,
Hmm.
take that if you will, but yeah.
Interesting.
That was
Interesting. And what was the first song that you actually crafted and put out to the world to listen to?
oh
You
wow.
remember?
That's a good well, the first songs I released, and this is give me away as a millennial, but I put music out on MySpace, and they were um they were really like rudimentary recordings that I had made. I think maybe the first one was a cover of House of the Rising Sun, which I did on auto harp. I like to mess around with different instruments,
Sure.
but that was another really fantastic like earlier instrument, because I don't know, are you familiar with the
Yeah.
got those little buttons with all of
That's
the
it.
chords written on it. So as long as it's in tune, which
Right.
that thing's got like 50 strings. So just, I'm not tuning that thing, but just get one that's in tune and yeah, you're good to go.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, the first song that you put on Bandcamp, Whatever I Can Get, I mean,
Yes.
that's from 2012, right?
Yeah.
Was that like one of your first singles that you like put out under
Yeah.
Red Ribbon?
Yes. And that actually is making me revise my timeline, because I realize all that violin San Francisco busking stuff would have been like 2008, not 2012.
Okay.
But yeah, I went through you know, I uh lost basically my love. He like passed away, my first love.
Mm,
His name's Adam. So he
mm,
really has a lot to do with like why I started in the first place. But after
oh,
that, I moved from San Francisco to Seattle, and I found the Seattle community super welcoming. Like the spirit of the Northwest is very much like, when it comes to music, you think of like Nirvana or something. It's very
mhm,
much like you don't have to be good to play. You just have to have like feeling,
right.
like when Nirvana started, they were not necessarily great at their instruments, but they had like that like gut feeling, so
Yeah, for
to me,
sure.
the whole scene, it felt very welcoming.
Mm, mm,
And that's when I first like put together a band, booked shows and called it Red Ribbon. So
mm,
yeah, that was around
mm.
2012, 2011. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sorry to hear about your your partner's
Oh,
loss there. Like
yeah.
that's
Thank
sorry
you.
about that. I imagine that dramatically changed your trajectory of
Mhm.
what you were going to be doing. Did
Mhm.
I mean, and obviously influenced your writing and
Mhm.
I mean, such a tragic event could surely lead to a lot of self-discovery.
Absolutely.
Um and when you first started to write these songs, what were your themes dealing with? Was it a lot of just kind of dealing with your emotion and trying to
Mhm.
navigate through life?
Yeah, it was. And I think some of it was, um, taking some of his energy and trying to put it into my life.
Mm,
He's the first person who let me borrow an electric guitar. I played an
mm,
acoustic, but and he really had a love of Elliott Smith. And after he passed away, I remember like walking with his mom in the woods in Mendocino, which is a really beautiful like redwood coastal forest area.
mm,
And I kind of, she was like, okay, what are you going to do with your life? What do you want to do? And I was like, okay, I want to be a musician,
yeah.
um, and it felt like, I just remember that moment clearly, because growing up, I didn't necessarily feel like I could say that that's what I wanted to do, because it wasn't
Mm,
a practical pursuit. And
mhm,
so I think it just like, it catalyzed me in a way to just, yeah, everyone goes through grief, everybody loses people,
right.
and it's just like, it's very helpful if you can put that somewhere.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I hear what you're saying. I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Mhm.
And then your first record,
Mhm.
Freaks Only.
Yeah.
I mean, you produced it and you wrote it, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like how did you come about this record with those two hats on? Like
Mm.
approaching it from, okay, here are the songs I want to craft, and then kind of seeing how the sound was going to be developed and
Mhm.
mixed, and like how is that challenge of trying to figure two of those things out on your first record?
Yeah. So it was one of those situations where, necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm,
So
mm,
nobody could produce me. So I just had to figure it out,
yeah.
And I think too, when you're first beginning, if you can build like the basic understandings of like how to record yourself or how to engineer, you're kind of allowed to play around, mess up, sound bad. And it just kind of gives you a little more freedom without like the anxiety of being like, oh, am I, you know, I'm not good enough or whatever. Like, because
Mm.
ultimately everybody has to go through those really kind of let's call it a dusty phase where,
Yeah,
know,
I like that.
doesn't sound good. Like nobody gets away with, nobody gets out of that. You just got to
Mm.
slog through it. So, and some of those songs like Freaks Only itself, I'm like, okay, I like this. Like it sounds like my level of production is what it is, like very lo-fi.
Mhm.
Um, and I like that sometimes. I like
Yeah,
something that's not polished. Yeah.
yeah. I think the authenticity too rings out with that in this record. Like it sounds so natural and genuine and authentic in its songs and the song lists and like how you put the songs,
Mm.
how you played one song off of the other, as I'm trying to say. I guess that's called the track order.
Yes. Oh Lord, I could spend a year thinking about a track order.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then you in the sub in the following records you brought in a producer, and sometimes like there's one producer like that you had, I think it was on Planet X, right? Was some,
Randall Dunn.
yeah, like he's a doom metal
He's
producer.
a metalhead. He actually produced my first two studio records, and
Okay.
we met in Seattle, and he had had this kind of like established career working with like Earth and Sun O and these really intense, yeah, doom metal bands. And
Mm-hmm.
but in my town, which was Seattle, he was, I don't know, I thought like, damn, like this guy's the best.
Yeah.
And we had some mutual friends. And I remember I was like working at a radio station, KEXP, volunteering there. And
Mm-hmm.
I was working under a DJ and I was like, I really want to record with Randall. And rightfully so, she was like, yeah, but doesn't he get a pick who he records with? So basically, for maybe like 4 years, I just asked him, I was like, hey, so can we record? Just like, wait, kept asking him, like, kind of a relentless pursuit. And, I was pretty young. So he's probably like, who is this, like, little girl type? But eventually, eventually I cracked him and we became
Oh.
friends. And he gave me a shot and basically just opened up that whole world in such like an amazing professional way. And it was very interesting working with him because our touchstone records are not, some of them are the same, but a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them are not. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's just amazing to see like the different genres of music, like how they can be so unrelated, but yeah, it's like in a sense it's all music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love being able to work like outside of maybe a genre that I might be tied to or something like that, or with people from different genres. It's inspiring that way. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to engage in music as a listener. I like everything.
Mm.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Were you nervous about what he might do to your songs, or were you excited about the potential transformation or revisioning of your songs?
Yeah, I mean, I was super excited. If anything, I had, in the studio itself, I definitely had a little bit more anxiety about like stepping up to the plate and like being able to perform and like
Mm.
being ready and being prepared and being sharp.
Right.
It was intimidating. It was very intimidating, especially with those records, because our approach was kind of, we've got, did I make both of them? I made in New York, but it was like, a couple days of tracking, a couple days of overdub. And then there's this limited window of maybe like 10, 12 days, to make a record. So
Right.
for me, it felt like the pressure was on,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a
So
bit intimidating for sure when you're
super,
on the clock like that.
yeah, yeah,
And expecting, and particularly when, I mean, what was that, 10 songs, 12 songs on that
yeah,
record? Like it's still like a
yeah,
sizable amount of recording to do,
yeah,
and
yeah.
tracking. And yeah. Did you find that so the record coming in November 1st, different producer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you find that there's a difference in the sound that you got out, or um the image of the record? So this one's self-titled, and then the two others that you had done with Randall. Did you
Mm-hmm.
find that this one that's coming out November 1st has your sound is different, or has evolved or shifted at all?
Yeah, I think it does sound different. Um, I was very curious to see, like, working with someone else
Hmm,
besides Randall or my own like self-produced stuff. Like,
sure.
I just wanted to see what the through line was, like what Red Ribbon actually sounded like, if it was me producing or Randall or Rob Schnoff, who
Yeah.
worked on this last record. And I can hear the through line, which is a relief to me,
Hmm,
because I'm like, okay, I've got, you spend a lifetime by developing your like your artistic identity, you could spend
mhm.
forever doing that. And it just brought me a little, I think, closer into that. Like, I'm not sure if I'm
Yeah.
making sense, but
No, sure. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, what are you anticipating? Like, so November 1st is your launch. Like, what is the music machine gonna put in place for this new release of yours?
Yeah. Well, some of it is to be determined. I'm like keeping my
Hmm.
eyes open for opportunities and that sort of thing. I booked like I'm starting to book some touring in March. So just kind of nursing that and trying to develop that period of time. But if the world will have me, I'd love to like play shows out there.
Right.
So. So
Is
for
it kind of like, do you
oh,
wait for the release to happen and then you kind of gauge, like how would you determine, like, okay, the record's been out a week now, like what do you look for, or what do you observe to kind of give you the clues for your next steps?
hmm, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, usually if I mean, kind of what happens is how I've operated
Hmm.
during in my career has been, I've always I've self booked everything. So I've done national tours and East Coast tours and gone to the UK and France and all that stuff,
Yeah.
but just kind of on my own.
Mm.
Uh, Sometimes with a band, sometimes not, and I for that, I white knuckled a lot of those tours,
Mm.
like I sent 10 emails to get one back and end up sending hundreds of emails. And I always describe booking a national tour as like harder than like a college thesis, it's quite hard if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear you.
and also kind of like booking a national headline tour, like where you're not
Hmm.
supporting other artists, is really tricky as well, but very worth it and amazing.
Okay.
But I think now what I would love to do is you know tour to support other artists.
Mhm.
And I would love to take a back seat in the booking, but I'll do whatever I need to do. If I need to white knuckle some shows, I will. But I'm hopeful that maybe there's opportunities around the corner, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, many musicians have said like when something picks, it goes so fast. You don't know, like
Yeah.
it gets picked up a single and somebody starts playing it. And then that, like it can evolve so quickly. So I
Yeah.
can appreciate that you're kind of like, well, we'll see. Like,
I
kind
mean,
of,
I'm trying to set myself up in a way where I'm ready to go, because a lot of times these
mm,
opportunities, they do come quick. Like you might get
right.
asked to do a support tour, maybe like 2 months or a month ahead of time sometimes.
Hmm.
It can be pretty quick. So I've just tried to set up my life in a way where if I need to, I could drop everything and go. Uh,
Right.
it's part of the
Right.
reason I work in, service.
Right. Right. It's
So, yeah.
oftentimes musicians, right? It has to be some kind of service industry, or because
Mhm.
to have like a career job is hard unless you're
Yeah.
a teacher when you like have the summer off and
Yeah.
you tour for like 2 months. That's it.
Right.
Um, Really cool. I love how you are a hustler in the sense that your music, you're behind it continuously, getting out there and finding connections and creating relationships. And um, it it's a really something to admire. I love the words that you've been sharing of how you get down to the concrete and like get your music out there. I mean, you have to, right? Or it
Yeah,
it,
I'm a
it
hustler,
sits on a hard drive somewhere.
gotta hustle, we gotta hustle.
That's it. That's it. That's it. Well, Emma, this has been a real treat. I wish you all the best with this new record. It is really, really good, from start to finish.
Thank
Again,
you.
I mentioned at the start when we were on air here that I had gotten a preview of it, and it's just been solidly playing on my system ever since. So
Oh,
it's
cool.
so full of great songs, and I really feel like it's an evolution in a really great way for you. It really fits. I find this conversation, I'm starting to identify more with the record as we talk. So
Oh, wow.
you come through in that record really well. So congratulations on it. I know it's such a feat. It's a long process, and then it's released, and then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, there it is.
Yes.
I hope you all like it. So I know it's tricky sometimes, but I think you're on a great path, and I'm excited to keep following you and seeing what the future holds. So thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, you take care, and I'll be watching. And people, remember self-titled Red Ribbon coming out November 1st.
Yeah.